I want you to know as a parent that the empathy and kindness you give to your child as they grow, when they fail, when they make mistakes, when they don't live up to the standard that you have created for them or the society standard, the empathy and kindness you give to them, the way you guide them through that process of downtime, is what is going to determine the kind of empathy and kindness they are going to show to themselves as they grow up in life. A child that is well loved, a child that is well guided, even in failure and trying times, is going to build a resilient skill. Is going to build that inner self-love for ourselves. Watch it. Most people that commit suicide, they don't have self-love and empathy on themselves. They go too hard on themselves. They go too hard on themselves. They condemn themselves so much. And it's not their fault. It's as a result of how they have been repeatedly condemned, how they have been repeatedly faulted as they were growing as a child. That has become the inner critic voice on the inside of them that inform how they view themselves when they make mistakes or when they don't meet up with certain expectation. Okay, I will tell a small portion of the story of my life when I was in uni, in my uni days. So it happened that I went to OAU, Obafemi Awolowo University, and then OAU happened to me. OAU really happened to me. I mean, how do you explain that being in school, you've been attending lectures, you've been receiving lectures, you've been writing exams, and then you are no longer a student of the school. You've long been thrown out of the system before you yourself even realized that, oh, I'm already out of the system. Like, you didn't even know that you were already out of the system, but until after a long time. It was back in the days where we used to carry manual course form, course card, manual registration here and there. The whole thing has not yet been digitalized at that time. Story for another day. One thing led to the another. Long story cut short, I was already out of the system. And, I didn't know how I was going to go back home to say this to my parents. Why? Because yes, I know that my parents, especially my dad, believes so much in me. He has so much high expectation of me. Because, I finished quite early. Like I was 15 plus when I finished secondary school. I've not even clocked 16. I think the year I was going to clock 16 was when I finished secondary school. I finished with very fantastic grade. In fact, I wrote the final exams. I wrote it as a SS2, just to test my knowledge. I did very well in it, but my dad said, okay, you are still very young, finish up with your SS3. I finished my SS3 and I still also finished with good grades. I wrote jam. My dad believed that I was going to finish maybe by the age of 20 or 21. I'll be a graduate. I'll do my master's. I'll do my PhD. Because he used to believe that I will be an academician like himself, and life happened to me. Oh, hey, you happened. To cut short the dreams. So I didn't know how I was going to go home. I've never had encounter of failure right from primary school days and secondary school days. So I didn't know what my father's reaction or my parents' reaction was going to be. Yes, I know that I was well loved, I was well motivated and well encouraged, but I was so disappointed in myself that I also didn't know how I was going to go back home to tell them this story. So I stayed back in school. I stayed back, I was writing, I stayed back in school, and I decided that I was going to write another jam, any exam at all possible. If I hear that there is a water, even if it is water education somewhere and there is a form for it, I will write that exam. The local government education studies, I write the exam. Computer, whatever. So far it is inside this OAU. I don't want to go back home. I will get the form and I will write the exam, registering for jam and all that. So eventually I got admission. I got readmitted back into the school and I continued, but I couldn't cope. Like, I lost all my peace. I knew that I had to tell my parents what was going on. Why? Because I know that the time was fast approaching where I was supposed to graduate, and look, here am I just beginning this particular course, and this particular department that I am now in, the school fee is so high. Like, the school fee is like times four. of what I was paying originally from school, from what I was paying originally in the course I was studying before. I managed and struggled with the help of my sister, with the help of all the pocket money, with the help of all. I managed and struggled, and then to pay for my first year, because my parents would normally give me the fee for the course they thought I was in, and then I need to add up to it to make it up to the first year. I struggled to pay for that first year, but after that first year, I knew that I can't keep up. I couldn't keep up with the payment for the second year, and I knew I needed to go back home and go and report myself. I eventually went back home. But when it happened, it was like the lowest point of my life. I was almost going to, like, it was so tough and it was so bad. A lot of thoughts went through my mind. But the reason why I didn't choose the negative way out was because of the so many things that has been deposited inside of me as a child as I was growing. The positive words. I eventually went home. I went to tell my parents this was what was happening, and this is when it has happened. So when I told my parents, there was a feeling of, you know, shock, there was so many mixed reaction and feelings I could read on my parent face that particular fateful day. It's a day I would never forget in my life. But there was a feeling I was looking out for and I never saw. I was looking out for the feeling of disappointment. I was looking out for the feeling of condemnation. I was looking out for this on their faces as I told them, but I never saw this on their faces. All of the feeling I saw, condemnation, disappointment, was never part of the feeling. And they didn't say much that particular day. My dad just breathed in deeply. He didn't say much. He asked me some few questions. I answered him, And then he said I should take my bag in and go and eat and all that. Then later on, he called me into his room and he started asking me certain questions and all of those things. And much more than his feeling of hurt that, oh, my daughter has wasted some time and all of you, what I saw in his eyes was compassion, was empathy. It was more concerned for me how this is going to take its toll on me, the effect and the impact this is having on me. It was much more concerned about this than the money he has spent, the number of money he has spent in quotes for the number of years I've been running school, and I didn't know that I was already out of school. And, and that did something to me. It's that very day, it gave me this very strong determination, this resilience that I'm going to do whatever it takes to make these people proud. At this point, I was convinced beyond all reasonable doubt that my parents genuinely, all of the goals, the aspiration, and every standard they have ever set for me was not for their own self-gratification. It was because of me. All of the discipline, all of the words of advice they've ever given me, everything they've been doing for me since I was born, since I know myself, was because of me, not because of themselves. I started believing more this saying that says, if you are ever in doubt, find someone who believes in you and hold on to them until you're strong enough to start believing in yourself. And when you finally start believing in yourself, ensure your life success story is one that makes them proud. And that was how that strong determination came in for me. That was how I became more resolute to pursue my life goals and ambition with a new zest and zeal. I suddenly began to have this feeling that I can conquer the world. I started believing in myself more than ever before. I came back up from that low state I was because of that incident, and I saw myself standing tall. For me, at that period of my life, finding someone who believes in me, whom I can hold on to as an anchor until I've gained my feet again, was my parent. it was my parent for me, because they saw what I couldn't see in myself even before that incident happened. They believe so much in me and they set a standard for me that they believe I can conquer. And when I fell off it, they were still there, never condemning me, making me see that yes, I can still do it again. This is what we see in you, and you can actually get there. And that was life transforming for me, even though they never knew it. Okay, that's their response to the situation instead of reaction changed and turned my life around. Because I feel like, what manner of love is this? How could you even be so concerned about me, about how this will take its toll on me when I am there? I've been worried sick how this was going to make you feel. The only thing that I know my dad was disappointed in is the fact that I didn't come to tell him early enough. He feels that, he was open enough to us, his children. He kept that communication channel opened enough for us to be able to come to him and tell him anything at all that is going on with us. He didn't think that I was going to let it, linger on like that before coming to tell him. He felt disappointed that I didn't come to tell him on time. That was the only form of disappointment he got. And it made me that actually made me realize this man and woman that God has so blessed me with to be my parents, they got me come rain, come shine. They would never condemn me. They would never make me feel like I'm worthless. And that built something so strong on the inside of me that has helped me in life race even till today. That spirit of resilience, that spirit that's want to stand up and fight, that spirit that would not give up, that spirit, that go-getter spirit. It built it up on the inside of me. And yes, I finished great in that particular course that I later opted out for. It's a very significant point, happenstance in my life that informed the kind of adult I later became. And that is why I'm crying out to all parents that as parents, we need to know that the way we undo things with our children when they are not meeting up with life expectations, it will greatly affect the way they will be able to face life, their ability to face life. But we should never, for any reason, make our children feel like a failure. We should never make them feel that because they have failed at this particular thing. Every child have their strengths. If a child is failing at something, it means that that is not that child's strength. It doesn't necessarily mean that that child is a failure all round. So it's your duty as parents to recognize what is that child's strength and channel that child in that particular part. Guide that child through that process. Guide that child.